Folks, welcome back to the Keep Going podcast with Vin Kennedy. I'm your host, Vin Kennedy. Today, we have a special guest on. This is Frankie. Frankie, you want to introduce yourself?
What's up, bro? Thank you for having me.
Of course.
So I am Frankie Dades. I am from Staten Island, New York, originally. I live in New Jersey now. Grew up always playing sports, not the top of the pack, but always stayed somewhere in the middle. Then I got tired of my lack of confidence in myself and decided to really start testing myself in the athletic field, because I feel like I wasted so much time. So growing up, like I said, was never top of the pack in the sports, and I owe that to my lack of confidence. And it, to me, wasted a lot of talent and years that I could have potentially compounded on. So I started taking my fitness journey serious about 5 years ago now, like completely serious. I always worked out. I just never really took it 100% serious. I would go through the motions. Once I turned 21, I was going out, drinking, partying, and, I felt that holding me back. And I decided to cut that out completely and really start to go all in on myself, and just started sharing my fitness journey on TikTok and Instagram. And it took some traction, and I built a platform on, building up self-love, confidence, and pushing your limits. And it's done really well. My goal is to help people who are in the same boat that I was mentally and help them push themselves every single day. So quick little intro, we could take it from there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, yeah, you hit it in the head. And I think we align with a lot of the same stuff from like kind of the partying background and same with sports. I mean, I was decent at baseball, but I always say, and I'm sure you feel the same way, like if I had the work ethic that I had now, it's insane. Like you don't know, you really don't.
Yeah, I played football, basketball, and boxed for the better half of my childhood, and I had great talent, especially in boxing. My father was my trainer, and he always used to tell me, "You have so much talent," but like my problem was, like I said, my confidence, and I would overthink and psych myself out, and like I would give other people more credit than I gave myself. So before I stepped in the ring with someone, I was already saying, like, I was looking at the kid and saying like, oh, he's taller than me, or, he's been doing it longer. And in reality, it doesn't matter. And it's all heart. And I would lose the fight before I even started, because I just doubted myself. So I never took it where I could have. And it's all lessons learned, and you can't look at it like that. But right. I did waste a lot of talent because of that.
No, I know what you mean. And I look at it the same way, where it's like, this was your path. You know what I mean? So it's,
yeah.
And something, so to touch on, do you think because of like, obviously there was like that, you would almost compare yourself and look at yourself as lesser than these other people. Do you think that pushed you into, hey, like the party scene's easier, like I'm just gonna go out on the weekends? Like,
that's a really good question. So I actually spoke about this recently. On top of, having that lack of confidence, I didn't look the best. So like, and I'm not saying like having muscles and abs is the best thing, but to me, I always had an athletic group of friends too. And they were the type of kids that just had, we were 14, 15, 16, they had six packs, and I didn't. I was chubby, who knows about nutrition really at that point. So I was eating whatever. And then I started getting into like weightlifting and working out and eating a little bit more consciously than I used to. And I got in decent shape, and I gained confidence in the wrong way. So yeah, it definitely, like, once I gained that confidence where I lost some weight and, looked a little bit better than I did growing up. And now I had some attention from girls and, people, they wanted to go out. I channeled that confidence in the wrong way. And yeah, it took me to like the weekends and, going out, and everybody does it, and there's nothing wrong with that. And I don't judge anybody who does, but there's a time and place where you have to, evaluate your morals and where you want to be. And I realized that this isn't for me. And I saw people who are older than me that were still doing it and in a position where I personally don't want to be in at that age. And I saw more for myself. I didn't want to stay stagnant anymore. So that's what really made me want to make that change. But great question, because that's exactly what happened is I just channeled my confidence in the wrong direction.
Right. No, I mean, listen, I feel like we align in a lot of ways because I did the same thing. Like I was always a skinny kid, and then I hit college and it was like, oh, I could drink and eat whatever I want and nobody tells me anything. It was like buffalo chicken sandwiches for dinners. And then beer was like until I go to bed. You know what I mean? It was just,
Yeah.
that's what it was. And then found running and lost a ton of weight, and same thing. Like you get that, it's almost like the ego comes in where it's just like, you know, it's not a good self-confidence. And I did the same thing. So yeah, that's why I felt it, because like it's easy to get lost in that.
It is. And like you start to, you're making quote unquote friends who want you around for a good time, and like they're not in your best interest. And I always say, like, you got to evaluate the group that you're surrounded by if all you talk about with your group of friends is, what are we doing this weekend? Where are we going? Or what did we do last weekend? Whose table were we on? What bar you went to? But you're never talking about like bigger picture things, like where do we want to wind up? How can we achieve some goals? You got to change your circle, because that's a sure sign that the people you're surrounded by aren't looking out for your best interest, and they are pretty much in the same position as you, and you're just going to wind up going in a circle all the time, because you're never going to move. You're going to stay stagnant for sure.
So sure. Yeah. You stay on that hamster wheel. And it's funny because I actually had friends in air quotes, because we had that conversation the other day on Instagram, and it's so true. It's like, when you do this and when you start to, like, in a way, you isolate yourself to grow yourself, I feel like. And then from there, you branch back out to help people.
Yes.
That's how I feel personally with it. And I'm sure you do as well. And yeah, it's like you weed out a lot of people that you're not cutting. I wasn't, I'm sure you weren't, like, you're not cutting anybody off. It's just things don't align. Like I stopped watching sports. That was a big one for me. Stopped drinking. And it was like, it just like, I don't have a lot in common with these people that I thought were like, like I've been hanging out with you my whole life.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was obviously, it's something I brought up to you. And then, yeah, how do you navigate that? And where are you at like now with that process?
So at first it was tough, and you kind of hit that nail on the head. Like, you don't do it intentionally. I'm not like, oh, I'm cutting all these people
Right.
up. Because at the time I really did think a lot of them were my friends. So I was like, I'm just going to start cutting back. Like I didn't say it like to anybody. I just would turn down plans, which was tough for me, because at that time I feel like living to please others. So like I was a yes man. I always said yes. Like, you want to go out? Yeah, I'll come out. Yeah, I'll do this. Yeah, I'll do that. And it was tough at first making that change, because I got pushback. And then on top of that, now I'm working out more. At the time I had started like CrossFit, and I was just posting, not with any intention of, just because I enjoyed it. I would just post like a workout or a picture someone took of me in the gym. And like people started like messaging me, and who I was friends with, and like making comments like, stop posting so much fitness stuff. Stop, like, or make a fitness account. And I would read it. And to be honest, it affected me at first. At first, I was like self-conscious to post. I would think of things that, I don't know how many times I would start typing up like a caption on a picture of me working out, and then just be like, no, because I start thinking like, who's going to comment on it? Who's going to make fun of me? Whatever. And then eventually it got to the point where it was annoying. I was like, I'm not making a fitness account, because I feel like that's me like living two lives, which I'm not doing. I'm not going to post on my account what you want to see and then make a fitness account posting all that stuff. This is my life, and I'm posting for me, what I do, how I'm living my life. And it's not to please you. You're welcome to unfollow me. Please do. Like, if you don't like, just because I'm not posting shots at the bar or my bottle service anymore, you don't want to see it. Like, where do people come off to message, stop post? That's like me messaging all people who are posting out every weekend, stop going out. Like, I would never do that. Are you serious? Like, so at first it affected me, and then I stopped, like, I just stopped caring. I had like a switch turn, And I was like, I don't care anymore. And slowly but surely, those people stopped texting me on the weekend to come out or just reaching out at all. And before I knew it, I was cut down to my true friends who never left my side. I have a great couple of friends who I've known for years, and they always supported me. And then at this point, what happened with that was I lost all those like toxic or negative people, and it just brought me kind of to more like-minded, goal-oriented people. So with losing whoever I did, I gained so many people who, not necessarily, I don't see them every day. I have friends in all different states and we connect when we can, but we always keep in touch, and they support me and I support them. And like, they do the same thing as me. So my feed on Instagram went from, I would see everybody out on the weekend, and now it's all people doing the same thing as me. So it doesn't feel like I'm this odd man out anymore, because everybody that I'm aligned with is on the same track in some way, shape, or form. We're all somehow working towards something, and it motivates me more because I'm like, oh, they're getting after it. I'm like, he's getting after it, she's getting after it. And it's a nice community to be surrounded by. And at this point, I'm so happy I made the change because it's connected me, like I said, with great people. I've had opportunities to meet people that I've followed and looked up to, such as Nick Bear from BPN, Adam Klink, Brian Mazza. And it also has given me opportunity to work with amazing brands that I never thought I would. So, there's a trade-off. It's tough. I always tell people it's tough. The pushback at first is going to be a little upsetting. If you stay the course and you just focus on yourself, things just fall into place, and you can't look so far ahead, like how far away it is. Just day by day, just keep focusing on yourself. Do what you want to do. If you want to go out and drink, go ahead. That's perfectly fine. If you have a different vision for yourself, but you're still living a life to please others, you gotta talk to yourself and start making those changes.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, and you hit a lot of things there. I think one funny thing that you did hit is that I completely agree with you. So I do mortgages. Obviously, I work with Jeff. So I have a couple things going on, and everybody always says like, "Oh, you should have a fitness page." I'm like, why? Because I mean, if you see my Instagram is full of this podcast, mortgage videos, and then my shirt's off in like every other video. People are probably like, what is going on? Like, what does this kid do all day? But I agree. And it's like, why am I going to limit myself? And I used to do it too. Like I used to write the captions even still. And I'm just like, I don't know if I can, it's like, that's cringy, but I'm sitting here. I'm like, I don't care. I really don't care anymore. And I think it's freeing, and it's true. It's like, now, obviously you've built that community where that's normal, but I feel like you need to take that step back, kind of isolate, grow yourself, be confident in you, and then you could like broaden back out and touch the people that you're supposed to in that positive light.
Yeah.
So something that I'm kind of like not even battling. I think in the early stages of this, I was, and I feel like you kind of touched on that where you might have been. It's like you almost feel like, so obviously you're stepping outside of the norm of everybody else's norm. Hey, why are you not out this weekend? What do you,
Yeah.
First of all, I had to ask, have you ever been to DJ's?
Oh, come on, bro. Yeah.
I've only been like once or twice. I mean, that place is like, it's like some people's Disney World and some people's like hell on earth.
Yeah.
That place is wild. But you almost feel like like that imposter syndrome where
Yeah.
it's so like when you first get started, it's like, wait, like I have a podcast, like even now, I'm like, I have a podcast. Like, who is this guy?
Yeah.
But the more you do it, the more you find your alignment. Like you said, like you found your community now, like you found your niche. And I'm sure you're in a spot where the people that used to reach out and, why don't you start a fitness page are probably like, crush it, man. Like, great job in the Buffalo Marathon. Like
some people, yes. And I usually give them the credit. I forgot to. There were people that initially like did give some bad. There's ones that never did, right, where I don't follow them, they don't follow me, right, whatever. I don't care. But then there's people that, at first maybe they weren't doing it in a negative way, like they were just messing around. They made comments, but like now they'll reach out and say like, yo, I see what you were doing, like, good job. And then it also had brought me oddly to people that maybe I knew, in passing, or we went to high school together, who were never really that close. And they started to reach out to me and have helped me. I've helped them in some way with fitness or whatever they want to do. and it brought me close to people that I was never close with, like growing up. We just kind of knew each other from the neighborhood or whatever. So it like I said, it just all tied in. And there are people who, yes, they reached back out. And I always say too, the negative messages, they, or whatever comments, they'll come and you'll get them. But when you're really being genuine and trying to make an impact in whatever it is that you're doing, the positive messages that you get just completely outweigh it. Like it was at first, maybe I would get 1-2 messages a week from someone like, oh, I saw this and it made me like, it changed my mindset, whatever. That's a great feeling now. And I'm not even exaggerating. It's to the point where I'm getting 20-30 messages a day of someone saying that I somehow impacted them. And for example, like last week, I got a message request and I look at it and the guy's like, you saved my life. And I'm like, what? And I answer, because I always answer anybody with a genuine message. I try to get to all of them. And I'm like, what do you mean? And he's like, I was on my way to, relapse with alcohol and buy a bottle. And I saw a video. I don't know which one it was. He saw a video of mine and changed his mindset. He made a U-turn and went home. And he was like, I just got to thank you. Like, and you get a message like that. I don't care if I have 100 negative comments making fun of me. That message is good enough for me. That's exactly my goal. So
no, absolutely. And you could tell, like, and that's the thing, man, it's genuine. And like, you can tell who is and who isn't. And that's the game changer. Cause some people are just like doing it for like, to blow up on social media. And at the same time, listen, that's fun. It gives you opportunity in life, which is great. But at the end of the day, you're trying to make a difference in people's lives because fitness made a big influence in your life and the positivity that it could bring to others. And that's how I feel. And I'm sure that's how you feel with sharing your passion.
Yeah, fitness is more than a physical thing and getting big biceps or abs or whatever. It is more mental than it is physical for me. I go for my morning runs and it clears my mind. I go to the gym and I let out whatever's bothering me there. It's like a therapy for you. And I feel like a lot of people needed that. Like they realized that these past couple of years when everybody had like gyms closed down, that it's more than just going to the gym and looking good. Like it's feeling good too. And it's helped me out. I can't even explain. And the whole thing. And then you build that self-confidence when you start feeling better mentally, you start performing better, and then you perform better. Now you look better and you just have that overall sense of confidence that you didn't have. And now you start to test yourself, learn what your capabilities are, and you feel unstoppable. You feel like, okay, if I did this, I could deal with this. And I try to relate fitness, and we could talk about this more. I'm sure we'll get into it, but I try to relate fitness to real life. So if you're microdosing adversity into your life daily, you're putting yourself voluntarily through something that's not exactly enjoyable in the moment. It hurts, it's tiring, and you overcome that, you're preparing yourself mentally to take on adversity in real life, because now your body knows that feeling. All right, I've been here before. I've dealt with hardship and I've went through tough times. This is nothing. I could take this on. I've done this. I'm going to do this. And that's how I try to relate fitness to. And that goes into like all the personal challenges that I've been putting myself through.
Absolutely. And to touch on the confidence thing, I feel like you mentioned you've reconnected with people maybe from high school or old friends, and you get that aura around you when you have that true self-confidence. And it's not the ego type of self-confidence that we spoke about earlier. You're confident in you know what I mean? Like you have that self-belief and the self-love, which you mentioned.
Yes.
And I definitely want to touch on. Again, it just goes back to being genuine. And like I've had the same thing where obviously, I mean, not even close. I feel like you're talking to me from like, you've just pushed through all this adversity. You built the platform. You're in your zone. And I'm like, I kind of just started posting more and doing that. So it's cool to get the kind of like your route of it.
Yeah.
And hear of it. Cause I'm reconnecting too with people from high school that or even middle school that I maybe wasn't so close with, but these are people I'm having more genuine conversations with on the daily. And again, it's generally like, running advice or even nutrition advice. And it's so funny because I'm like, I'm good with me, if that makes sense.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And when you're good with you, you're not looking for validation from other people. And then you don't have to, you know, force conversation anymore with people. Like you don't have to like make that small talk. Like I can now talk with you.
Right.
We've just met, and
Yeah.
I can have a deeper conversation with you than people that I was hanging out with for years.
Right.
It's crazy. It
It
really
really
is.
is. It's weird. And I feel like you feel the same way, like, because I've connected with a couple people now that have that same mindset. And like you said, it comes from pushing yourself. It just comes
Yeah.
from testing yourself. And you could tell who's on that wavelength and who's real with it and who does the work, because a
Yeah.
lot of these runs you're out there on your own. Nobody knows. You could post
Yeah.
whatever you want. I mean, I'm
I
sure.
know.
I mean, I don't know for real, but I'm sure you could just let this watch run and I think you could add workouts. So I'm not saying people do it, but
You can
there's
hit
a
that
difference to do
stop
the work.
button and stand there, and
Yeah,
then run as fast as you can and then
exactly.
stop button again. That's
Who
you
knows,
could
man?
sense, and I have a good sense of people who are genuine. And that's why I'm not a fan of the fitness industry right now. Growing up, it was different. I used to follow the fitness industry a lot, and there were a lot of guys that I followed, I mean, at the time there was no Instagram, but I
Right.
would watch YouTube, and they were guys who actually did, whatever it was that they were doing in bodybuilding or whatever it was. And they actually put the work in. And then I feel like now with the fitness industry, there's, TikTok, and it's pretty, simple to blow up there. You
Right.
post a shirtless video and millions of views, and
Right.
people saturated the fitness industry with kids who have, a decent physique and got a lot of followers, and now they're the face of the fitness industry. And it's not, a lot of them aren't, I don't accuse anybody, but a lot of them aren't natural
Right.
and claim to be. And I just feel like it's not genuine, but people can sense that,
Yeah.
and that's, I don't want the people that are not able to sense that I'm genuine. I want people who know that I'm genuine, and I'm not there to make any profit or, like you said, make money or blow up on social media. It's not, for me, it's not about that. I don't look for money. I don't try and, promote my 30-day challenge to get shredded. Like I promote my lifestyle, and I'm there to guide you if you need help. That's what I'm about.
Yeah. No, it's awesome, man. And you definitely can tell it's real and it's cool. And I definitely want to touch on, so you mentioned the self-love. So like,
Yes.
how do you navigate that in your life?
Self-love.
Yeah. Like, what are some
Um,
things that keep you dialed in with that?
so my biggest thing, and I still have problems with it, is like negative self-talk. And you have that voice in your head that wants you to stop, wants you to quit. And if you give into that, you're never going to make any progress. And for a long time, I gave into that. I've quit anything that challenged me growing up. I would quit because I didn't really, like I said, I didn't have that confidence. So now that voice is still there, and I feel like it's always going to be there, but I learned how to overcome it. And the way I do that is by challenging myself and doing different things that are completely out of my comfort zone. So that's how I kind of, keep that self-love, by positive self-talk. I'm not sitting there like, you're the best,
Right.
you're handsome. Like, no, I'm not doing that. But I'm like, you're strong. Look at what you've been through. Look what you've done. Um, Look what you've accomplished in your own capabilities, and look back on that. Why can't you do this? And that's how I try to talk to myself. And no, it's not always I'm not saying it's always sunshine and rainbows. Like, it's still there. Like, sometimes that negative voice is talking to me when I'm on a 16-mile run, and it's trying to tell me like, just maybe do 13 today, maybe
Not
do
out here.
10. Like, it's
Yeah.
hot out, it's cold out, and
Right.
you just have to push past it. It's not always easy, and it's not always like graceful, but that's how I really like dial in on that, is just, reminding myself what I've done, what I've been through. And I think about that kid who was 16, 14, 15, and really didn't have that confidence, and what he was letting get past him, and that was me. And
Right.
I want to make him proud. As stupid as it sounds, I want to
Yeah.
prove to that kid that he's not those negative things that he used to say about himself. And I genuinely mean that. Like, I think back and I'm like, how was I so hard on myself? And it's not right. But I feel like a lot of people struggle with that. And that's how you really have to think in order to channel that energy.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And so it kind of sounds like you kind of like lock in with like discipline is almost a form of self-love. And then
Yes.
you dig into, like Goggins calls it, like the cookie jar. Like you
Yeah.
dig into like, hey, look what I got through. Like we could push through this. Yeah. No,
Yes.
it's awesome. And I mean, I'm, as you are as well, like huge on discipline and routine. I think a lot of people lack the structure, which if you just put that in order, it's the daily workouts, it's getting up early. It's the simple things that really do make the dramatic changes.
Yeah, for sure. You got to have discipline. Structure is key. I posted on my Instagram, I have a giant whiteboard with like the month, the week, the day, and each week each month I write out anything that I know of that I have to do. And then that week, depending on work and when I'm off, I plan out when I'm going to run and when I'm going to lift and when I have to meal prep or when I have to program for my app or whatever I do. I always have that, so I see it and I know what I have to do. And that's kind of like a non-negotiable. I have to do it. It's going to get done. Some days I sacrifice some sleep. I try to get quality sleep if I can't get that quantity. But I'm not one of those people that are like, you got to get up at 5 a.m. every single day. Like when I'm off and I don't have to be up, I get that sleep in because I prioritize that. I know, you learn. It's just the discipline of knowing what you need and when you need it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And sleep's a huge one that's so undervalued. And again, I don't know why we've created this culture of like you can't sleep ever. It's the
Yeah.
craziest thing. Like everybody's got to be at 4 a.m. So
Yeah.
unrealistic. Like people work midnights. How are
I
you just
know.
not going to sleep all day long? Like it's insane.
Yeah.
But no, it's true. It's that grind culture. I feel like it's sometimes taken too far, but it really, yeah, I mean, you have your things in order. You know what you need to do, and that's kind of what it comes down to.
Exactly.
So next I want to hit on hybrid athletes. So where are you at right now with training? What are some of your favorite forms of training? You mentioned, boxing, CrossFit. I know you did a bodybuilding competition. You ran the Buffalo New York Marathon. Where are you at like right now?
Right now I'm training for the New York City Marathon, raising money for Sloan Kettering for cancer research. And, this marathon hits home for me. It's my home. I'm running through all 5 boroughs that I've served and worked in and buildings I've helped put up. So it's like, it really is like a personal one for me. So I'm really looking forward to that. Apparently, I mean, from what I've seen and what people tell me, it's an experience you'll never forget. And it's something I never thought I would do because I didn't run marathons, but I thought it looked cool. And now I'm like, I'm actually doing this. It's going to be sick. So
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And it's like you said, Staten Island boy. So you're right, you're right there.
Yeah.
That's great. But and you just touched on something that I always do too. And it's like, I never thought I would do this. Like I wasn't a runner, but it's like now, obviously, I mean, if you're not a runner, I don't know who is at this point.
I know.
So it's funny though, like how the identity stuff that we've kind of like, people put us in those boxes, and then obviously you can put yourself in those boxes, and it's so easy. And like, obviously now, you are a runner, but it really is. It's so funny. I do it all the time, and it's something I catch other people doing where it's like you're almost saying like you can't do that.
Yeah.
It's just so wild.
You gotta say like why.
Right.
And I used to believe it too. I'm like, yeah, I can't do that either. Cause I grew up when I started lifting, it was like a bodybuilding style of lifting. I was always doing like bro workouts, never did cardio, or if I did, it was the bare minimum. I hated running when I had to run boxing. It was like it was a suck fest for me. And then I joined CrossFit, and I was doing CrossFit, and CrossFitters don't run, they have 400-meter runs maybe in a workout. And like, that was always like the hardest part for me. I was like, oh God, I got to do 400 meters. Sometimes it was 800. And like, I was like, how do I do this
Yeah.
without dying? And then I started to like get into trying to run. And my problem was I was running way too fast. I was all obsessed with keeping the pace on my watch nice and low so that I could take a picture of my watch face and put it on my story. Like, look, I'm fast. But the problem was I didn't have that aerobic base built up. So I would run a mile and then I'd have to stop and I would be like panting for air. And it got to a point where I was like, what the hell? Why can't I breathe? Like
Right.
people see it seems so effortlessly for other people, but I didn't realize the work that had to get put into it. So I really started to dial in on my running, but I also lift. And then, first was a half marathon. One thing led to another. I did a full, I did another full. Now I'm going to be on my third full marathon. And people look at me and they're like, I can't believe you run marathons. Not that I'm like huge and jacked, but I have compared to like someone who's a real runner, because I still don't consider myself a real runner,
You know what I
like
mean? Yeah.
I have muscle and that can hold people don't want to have that when you're like a real runner because it holds you back.
Right.
And I'm like, I mean, it's not, and people are like astounded that it's possible to keep on muscle while running. And I'm like, you got to just, go hard in the gym still. And you have to keep up with your nutrition because some people are scared to eat. And in this kind of style of training, you have to eat. There's no deficits. You can't really be in a deficit. You need to eat to recover and fuel. Otherwise, it's going to cause a whole mess.
It's so true because you kind of get categorized as one or the other. You can't be
Yeah.
hybrid athletes, or I guess it's new, but obviously you got a guy like you got a guy like Nick Barron. People see like obviously you guys have muscle to you, and it's just like, how do they do that? Like, oh, and then people jump to that conclusion like, oh, they must be on something. Where it's like, no,
Yeah.
we eat good food and we know what we're doing. Like it's a big difference.
Exactly.
But what was like that push for that first half marathon?
At that point, I had been running for, I think, 2 years. Not,
Right.
it wasn't correctly most of that time. I was doing everything, pretty wrong. I didn't know a training plan, but then I started doing a little bit of research and I had started training the right way maybe 6 months prior to that. So like I was running easy runs and I was doing some speed work, still not 100% correct, but I had it structured and I was getting better. Now it went from me, struggling to run 3 miles to now I was doing increasing mileage each week. I was doing long runs and I was hitting mileage that I've never hit in my life, 7 miles, 8 miles at the time. And I was like, you know what? I might as well sign up for a half marathon. Let's see if I could do this. And I found one. I signed up a month before I actually did it. So it wasn't like I was working towards that.
Right.
It was but I had been running. So I was like, let me give it a shot. I saw there was one in Ocean City, New Jersey in like a month. And I was like, all right, I'll give it a shot. I didn't know anything about like courses, like
Right.
some are flat, some are hilly. And thankfully this one wasn't that hilly. It was good. And I had a great experience. My first one was sub 2, which, at the time being a newer runner was cool. I was,
Cool.
yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. And I had a similar experience with running. So I gained a ton of weight freshman year of college, lost it all by running. But again, didn't know nutrition, didn't know proper training. I was running 5-6 miles a day, eating like 3 salads a day. And I'm like, this is like, I'm running myself to the ground.
Yep.
And then kind of fell out of it a little bit. And then same thing, just randomly, I was like, I'm going to sign up for half marathon, got canceled because of COVID. And I went on this like endurance, like, I don't even know where it came from, but I was running like crazy. I did a half Ironman, like just thrown together by myself, ran a marathon. I'm like, what is going on? And I was loving it. I was swimming miles, just like never did this. Like I bought a biked 100 miles one day. And I'm just like sitting here, I'm like, I don't even know where it came from, but it was great. And I was loving it. But it's the same thing. Like when you don't have that structure with the running, and like a guy like Jeff obviously is huge, but I was, to train for a marathon, I'm running 16 miles today. I'll run 10 in 2 days. And then a couple days later, I'll run like 10 more. And then I'll just run the marathon. Like that's how I thought. I was like, I need all this mileage.
I think that's like the biggest mistake. I'm actually working on a YouTube video right now that I filmed the other day, just talking about my current diet and biggest changes I made in my running from first marathon prep to this past one. And so I went from that half marathon. I coached myself through that. I feel like it's doable if you're not like a big runner. You could do a half marathon without a coach, unless you want like some spectacular time. That's a different story. I just wanted to finish, and I was happy with sub 2, which was awesome. Then I went into a bodybuilding show, bodybuilding prep, completely depleted myself, like destroyed. The way I felt was horrible. And even afterwards, I didn't feel normal for another 2 months. But this is where I went wrong. And it's exactly what you were saying. So my bodybuilding show was November 6th, did that. Then toward the end of my prep, I saw I wanted to run a marathon. And I should have done it coming off of that half marathon because I was in good running shape at that point. I was building that base. Completely offset it by not running for 3 months in that prep. And then I got into the Going More marathon in Texas, hosted by BPN. That was so November 6th. The marathon was January 29th. I had like 9 weeks to rebuild that base. And so a normal block, is 16 weeks at minimum to train for a marathon. I never ran a marathon. Now I'm gonna go from, my body was completely depleted. I was all out of whack because of the deficit. Now I'm going into running big miles. So I jumped mileage up. I thought I could still coach myself how I did for the half marathon, but just add more miles in. And I was, it was horrible. Like I was getting it done. The easy runs weren't so bad. I barely did any speed work, but like the long runs, which was concerning me, were killing me because I just wasn't training the right way. I didn't give myself enough time. And I thought to myself like 1,000 times, maybe I should cancel this. Maybe I should just push it back. But like at that point, I had already been training for it. And I was really looking forward to going to the marathon, not for the actual marathon, but to be back with BPN and see everybody. I had a bunch of friends doing it. And then I went and I learned my lesson real quick in that marathon. What I thought of it in a positive way. At first, I was very angry about it, like with myself. But now that I look back, I'm actually thankful it happened because of what I learned in that prep, and especially in that marathon, because it was definitely a lesson that it taught me.
Yeah, no, I mean, so running, it's like riding a bike, but you need a couple of weeks or months to get back on that bike, and then you're good. But you got to let the rust fall off. And I've learned that firsthand myself, where it's like, you can't, if you don't run for a while and then you go run even a mile, you're gassed. Like it's just it's a different animal like that. It's not like strength in the gym.
Nope. Especially with coming off of that prep, you got to reverse diet back up. But I'm running and weightlifting. I need to eat. So like, it was just, I was putting on like water weight. Like it was a disaster. I should have given myself like 2 months to like get back on track, but I didn't. And I learned, but it helped me out. I feel like it made me a better runner because now of what happened, I've learned from those mistakes that if they never happened, I might have made them at Buffalo, or I might have made them in New York,
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's the thing too. Like, even with all the craziness that goes on with some of these events, like you learn so much. And even from the failures, obviously, and from even like the missteps, that's where you learn the most. You kind of need them.
Yeah.
It sucks when you're in it, but you need them.
So like, I definitely, it humbles you because especially this one. So I say it taught me a lot because I just came off that win in the half marathon. I got sub 2 without ever running one before. People train for a long time to try to achieve that. Not saying it's anything crazy, but like for me, it was a confidence builder. Then directly into a bodybuilding show where I won first place in my class without ever doing it before. So I'm like riding a high. And then I go into this marathon, and at mile 20, my quad cramps up and I can't bend my leg, and I got a limp and these headwinds, and there was 700 feet of elevation gain and loss. And that last 6 miles, I had to limp with headwinds and hills, and my quad was convulsing. And like, it was a failure. And I was like, it humbled me. It was
Right.
like, you don't know everything. You
Right.
need to get a coach. You need to ask for help from someone who knows what they're doing and do it the right way. And that's actually how I met Jeff at the marathon. He was there. I spoke to him. And then after that, it was all history. I've been working with him ever since.
Yeah, it's so true. And he just the best, but it really is so true. And it's funny because my mom was even saying, because a couple people have reached out for like nutrition advice. And I'm like, I don't feel like I don't, I didn't go to school for it and stuff like that, obviously. And again,
Yeah.
it's like we discredit ourselves too, where it's like I could probably give pretty decent nutrition advice. Obviously, you need the feedback from people's bodies or whatever. And
Yeah.
she's like, she made like a comment about like how like, why did you have a coach then if you know how to do it? And I was like,
Yeah.
Michael Jordan had a coach, right? And she was like,
Yeah.
that's a good point. I would say I was just messing with my
Very
mom.
true.
It's so funny and like it's true. Like it is humbling. And then you realize like a guy like Jeff steps in and like, not that I thought I even knew running, but I thought I knew myself with running. And he
Yeah.
just teaches you so much more. And it's so much value. And just the learning curve is crazy. Like even the conversations when he talks about like heat acclimation and stuff, I'm just sitting there and like, oh,
Yeah.
it's crazy.
He changed my mindset. We were just talking about this. I used to hate running in the winter. I would avoid it, or the rain, or any, like colder weather, avoided it completely. And I loved summer runs because like I loved breaking a sweat. But now that like I learned the ins and outs of running in that heat, like today, it's not really good like for your body, like
Right.
in the running aspect, like
It's not
your
optimal.
heart rate's jacked up, like
Yeah.
your body, the pace you're running in that heat is actually probably like 20 seconds slower, faster if it were to be cold or cooler out. And
Right.
like now my mindset changed. I'm like, damn, fall, I wish it was the fall. I can't wait to see how I'm going to run in the fall. Whereas like I used to say like, I'm only running the summer. Once fall comes around, I'm going to back off a little bit
Yeah.
because it's cold out, but like it changes completely.
Absolutely. I know exactly what you mean in that. And it's funny too, because you mentioned something that I noticed the other day. Because one thing that I do struggle with is like those easy runs. So, because sometimes my heart rate will say it's a little higher,
Yeah.
but I feel like I'm in control. Like I'm not really too winded. Like I feel like I'm in control. It's definitely, I think it's just better just to completely slow down. I actually rolled my ankle when I was in Aruba a couple weeks ago, mid prep here. And I think it helped me because it made me start to go slower because I needed to
Oh,
baby it. So I was like, wow, like it was actually good.
so one thing about that heart rate, like it's great. It's a great indicator to learn from, but like once you've been doing it for a while, you could go based off feel
Right.
and know, like if you're not panting for air, you don't have to stop. You can hold a conversation. Like when I run with my friends, we run and we're talking the entire time. It's heart rate is dynamic. So I don't know if you ever heard of a guy, Alex Viada. He's like, look him up. He's the guy who coined the term. He didn't like create it, but he says he coined it, the term the hybrid athlete. He
Mhm.
has a book, The Hybrid Athlete. He does like triathlons. He did a triathlon and like squatted or deadlifted 700 pounds. Very knowledgeable guy, has like his PhD. He does like a Q&A every week. So like one time I had wrote in the Q&A, like, is heart rate, like if my heart rate, because same thing was happening with me, like sometimes my heart rate will say 165, but like I'm fine. I'm like,
Right. Yeah.
I don't feel like I'm exerting that much. And I asked him like, is heart rate like a great indicator? And he basically says that yes, it's a good indicator, especially if you're just starting. However, some people naturally have higher heart rates. Also, heart rate is dynamic, meaning it can change with temperature. You hit one hill, it could
So
change.
true.
So it's
Yeah.
not necessarily that you're not in an aerobic state. If you feel like you could still hold a conversation, you're breathing normal, you're cruising, like you don't have to feel like you have to stop or slow down. You're still in an aerobic state because heart rate could change with numerous different factors. So like that was nice I highly suggest you follow him because
Yeah.
like
No, absolutely.
he does a Q&A every week. The info he gives is insane. He's so smart. So like hearing that was like, all right, nice. Although now I do always try to keep my heart rate lower and I go based off feel, and it winds up being low because I'm used to that. Like I know what it feels like to be
Pulls it up. Yeah,
aerobic or in a tempo or threshold. Like you learn over time.
absolutely. Yeah, no, and it's funny because Jeff said the same thing. He's like, these watches are great, but people fixate on their numbers now, and he's like,
Yeah.
it kind of takes away from it. And I was like, no, it's so true because like sometimes I'll check because I'm like, I'll look at my pace. I'm like, I'm going kind of fast here, so then I'll check my heart rate and be like 160 or like 158, and I'm like, oh, I got to
Yeah.
dial it back a little bit, but I'm like, I feel fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then something I'm not sure. So obviously you have a Garmin as well. The my resting heart rate every time I start to really incorporate running, it's like it drops like 31, 32 beats per minute. And I'm like,
Yeah. Mine's like 40 right now. It's sick.
insane. I'm like, am I yeah, like
It's
sometimes
sick.
like I posted one of like my activities for the day, and it has like your heart rate, how you slept, all of that. Like
Yeah.
obviously
Yeah. Yeah.
Garmin breakdown. And like two people commented like your heart rate's like 31 beats per minute. I was like, I run a lot, I think. I was like, I don't know. Like,
Yeah.
I know it's
That's how
healthy,
you
so I'm
know
not worried about it.
that's how you know you're fit. Your
Yeah,
heart rate
right.
low as hell.
But that's what made me think too. I'm like, maybe because it is so like obviously you're in the same boat. Like we have these lower heart rates. So when we do start to, like jack it up from running, maybe it does shoot up a little higher too on the easier runs. Like again, with the like the versatility in the heart rate.
Yeah,
Curious.
I mean, anything could play into it. Some days I'll have a lot on my mind and I could
Right.
be a little anxious and my heart rate's already high to begin with. And I start running, that's when I'm like, I'm not even looking at the heart rate. If I
Yeah.
feel good, I'm running. If I feel like I got to take it back, I will. I don't care. Like you can't always
Right.
be looking at it because sometimes it's not even accurate.
Yeah.
There's been times like when I used to run at like a 10-minute pace, my heart rate was like 190. I was like, okay. I was like, you know what? I'm not looking at what am I gonna walk? Like I gotta run,
No, it's so true. Yeah.
It's crazy. So
Yeah.
yeah.
That's a good point. And then you mentioned, so is there a link or anywhere that people could donate for the marathon?
Yeah, there's I have the link in my bio on
Okay.
Instagram. Yeah, any amount can help. The goal is 3,500. I believe I have like 1,800 so far, and I still have a few months. So any amount helps. It's for a great cause, cancer research. I'm sure most people that in some way, shape, or form hits home. So let's start working towards a cure for cancer.
No, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it hits home for me. I lost my aunt to cancer, and is there a reason why
Sorry.
specifically? No, I appreciate it, brother. Is there a reason, like, is there a backing to it for you personally?
Yeah, so I wrote on my post where I announced that I was running the marathon. I explained for those who don't follow me or saw that. So aside from it, everybody knows somebody who's been affected by cancer, which is I know countless people.
Absolutely.
This is like especially personal for me because I live in New York, grew up here, and worked in the union building. I was pouring the concrete for all the high rises in all of New York City. I've worked around the new trade center, and I'm a first responder in New York. And throughout both of those careers that I had in construction and being a first responder, I've met people who were in the business or on the job around 9/11, and they were sick or had wind up passing away from 9/11 related illnesses. And like the list is just endless. Like it just every year it's someone new that I know of or knew who passed away or who's being diagnosed. And then this past, I think it was a month ago now, a month and a half ago, someone who was like an uncle to me was passed away from cancer that was related to 9/11. And, it hits home. I'm going to run this race for him. At the same time, I'm running it for everybody who has been affected by this to hopefully at some point in life put an end to this, because it really is. It's the numbers are insane, especially like the 9/11 ones. Like there's more people now that have passed away from 9/11 related cancer than people who passed away on the actual day. So it just increases every single day.
Yeah. No, it's crazy. My dad was NYPD. He retired before 9/11, but again, has a lot of friends. It really is. It's crazy, and it's scary, and it's the C word. It sucks. It really does. And like you said, hopefully, at some point we do cure this, because it really, it affects everybody in
Yep.
some degree. Doesn't matter if you know someone directly or indirectly, it really does.
Yep.
But that's awesome. That's awesome that, you have a strong why for it. And
Yeah.
again, that's, you're deep in it, mile 22. That's, you think of your why, and you'll never
Yeah.
stop in that race. Like
For
that's
sure.
yeah, that's awesome, man. So obviously, running the New York City Marathon and then grew up in Staten Island. You want to touch on what it was like growing in Staten Island?
Staten Island.
Yeah.
Staten Island is a very small, I don't know. It's very small. Everybody knows each other. It's 14 miles long. Nobody really does things, and that goes overall with like what we were talking about before. Nobody really does things out of the norm, like
Right.
what we consider the norm. And if you do, it's noticed very easily because it's small. And yeah, I loved it. It's where I'm from. It's my home. I had great memories there, but like it's not somewhere I wanted to stay. I know a lot of people that never leave or never left.
Mhm.
And that's something I never wanted to do. And I'm thankful that I was able to go away. I put air quotes because I went to college in Jersey, but still, for me, that was going away. I got to branch out from Staten Island, and kind of that was like how I started to spread my wings a little bit by leaving, because it's great. I love it. I grew up there, but like if you don't leave, you never get out. And I see a lot of people in that predicament, and you fall into the Staten Island shuffle, which is you're just doing what everybody else does, and there's never anything different. And for me, that wasn't what I wanted to do. And yeah, nothing. No, like I love it. The food's great.
Yeah, definitely.
I have a lot of great friends from there, but it's just not somewhere that I wanted to stay.
No, I feel it. Yeah. So my father's from Staten Island, my mom's from Brooklyn. We have family still in Staten Island all the time. We were there for Mother's Day. It's great, obviously, but like you said, it really is. It's like that small niche, and
Yeah,
it's hard to get out of that, and it's hard to go against the grain. And
yeah,
obviously, you've done that, and you've made changes, and for the better, and for your personal development, and it's big. It really is. And on that, like, what are some of your big goals going forward? So obviously, you have the marathon coming up. Do you have any big fitness goals, or any big just goals overall?
yeah. I like to look at like what's in front of me, so I don't talk much about
Hmm.
what my like big goals are. I have them. Uh, Obviously, my big overall goal would be a sub 3 marathon. But that's not the goal for this upcoming one. I'm realistic in my training, and so is Jeff. Like I just PR'd 42 minutes from my first marathon to Buffalo. Went from 4:19 to 3:37. So I'm not going to be like, yeah, let's go all in, and I'm going to, PR another 38 minutes. Like I'm realistic. I played sports. I know what it takes to get somewhere. Like I'm not going to start overtraining myself and try, to hurt. I might wind up injured if
Right.
I'm really trying to push myself like that hard. So let's incrementally get to it. So we said like the goal for this is it's sub 3:30, but 3:20 would be nice, and then from there is a reasonable time to cut down to get a sub 3. So yeah, in front of me. My goal is that, and then overall would be a sub 3. After that, when I finally do, whenever that is, achieve sub 3, I am thinking maybe try an ultra marathon. I haven't thought that far yet, but an ultra marathon is definitely on my radar. It's definitely something I've thought about, and I'm at some point will get that done.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. And for people that don't know, like, even to cut 7 minutes on your marathon time is like a big deal. So
Yeah,
you cut
yeah,
40 something, that's huge. And then to cut another 7, especially when you start getting in that 3:30 territory, like, it's crazy. You
yeah.
don't understand. Like,
People are
that's
like, "Oh, go for sub 3." I'm like, I'm not.
not that
I'm
easy.
realistic. I
Right.
understand. You learn that when you're playing sports. Like, there's certain things you can aim for, and there's
Right.
certain things you're gonna push yourself into the ground. And now I'm gonna wind up with a running injury from overuse or overtraining, and then it's gonna set me back even more. Like, let's
Right.
take it easy. And Jeff agrees. Jeff knows. He's said
Yeah.
it himself too. Let's get there, but in a reasonable time, not aim for it all.
Yeah. You gotta play the long game. You really
Yeah.
do. Absolutely. And it's funny too, because you see people like obviously Nick Bear and the sub 250, and like people are like, oh, why can't you do that? And it's like,
Yeah. It's
first of all, do
not
you see this
easy.
man? Like, are we kidding? Like,
Yeah, it's not easy, dude.
nah,
It's
it's
like
true.
it's a lot of work. And I'm not saying I won't do it, but
No, absolutely.
I'm not gonna if I'm running easy paces at 8:15, 8:20 right now, I'm not gonna start trying because then I gotta start pushing paces that I really shouldn't be because I'm not there yet. I gotta keep building that aerobic base and I'll get there, but in
Absolutely.
time.
So I don't know how you were when you were a little younger or when you first started on this, but that I would have been the complete opposite. I'm like, no, I need to do this now. And I would have got hurt.
Oh, I was like that.
That's
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
easy to get caught up in that. I love, I mean, I'm only 27 years old, but I feel like I grew so much in like the last 3 years that it's insane. I feel like I wasn't even an adult until I was
Yeah.
like 27, but
Get
it's,
those flashbacks on like Snapchat or on my phone or whatever, and I
yeah,
see, and I'm like, it's like 5 years ago today, and I'm like, wow, I thought I had it like all figured out at
yeah.
that point. I'm like, if you talk to him and you talk to me, it's like completely different people. I've
Oh, yeah.
180
Like,
mindset has changed so much.
absolutely. I couldn't even sit down in a room with myself like back then.
Yeah.
Back then would have laughed at me now, and me now would have laughed at me back then, and nobody would
Yeah.
have got it. It's so funny. But okay, yeah, awesome. And then the ultra, I'm in that same boat where I'm doing this Colorado marathon, and then like there's just something about 100 miles, and I listen to a lot of like I watch a lot of YouTube videos on it. Obviously Nick Bears, but a lot of runners on it, like Courtney Dahlwalter, she's insane.
Yeah.
And just a bunch of people on it, and it what draws me to it is that I know, like, listen, when you finish, you cross finish line, you accomplished 100 miles, like that's awesome. But we know the mental side of running
I
and
was
working
just
out.
gonna say
It's that,
that's the thing
yeah.
that attracts me is
I'm
that
like, I
everybody
know,
says you reach a spot in your mind that you never will get to.
yeah.
And like that's where I want to go. And people
It's
are like, you're
sick.
nuts. I'm like, I want to go there.
I need to
I
be
gotta
there.
meet
Yeah,
that spot.
100%. Like, I want to be at mile 80 and like be just absolutely out of it and just have to like I still have 20 miles left to go.
Yeah. And
Like,
I do that because it's just like to me, that's just gonna build self-confidence. Like
absolutely.
I feel like after that, what in this world can I take on? Because you really it's like working a muscle out. Your brain is a muscle, and
Absolutely.
that's a workout.
Absolutely. And that's, you know what, it's funny because like I kind of went into all this endurance stuff and pushing myself and the mental benefits from it. And from there, I made a career switch with I was in law enforcement and made a career jump from that to now I'm basically in sales doing mortgage loans. And people are like, oh, you're crazy, you're leaving the benefits and stuff like that. And I'm like, you don't get it. Like I push myself every day mentally that this stuff doesn't scare me. Like this is I'll
Yeah.
figure it out. Like it's because of that though. It's because of the built up self-belief in other areas of my life. I've let it like just completely flood every area.
Yeah. And that's how it's got to be.
Yeah, no, absolutely, man. But yeah, that's the ultras, man. They get me, and it's something about 100. Like
Yeah.
I know you got to build up too, and I'm not
I
saying
might do 50
yeah,
first
I
and
feel
then
like it's
100.
smart, but it's just something about it, really is.
Yeah.
So what like keeps you grounded on your current path? Obviously, have a big following. I'm sure you have the DMs are flooded, in ways you might want, ways you might not want, but from there, like what keeps you grounded? Like what keeps you humble? Because you could just tell, you're a genuine dude. You're humble. You really do. You have like that aura about you that like you want to help and you
Yeah.
want to you're confident in you and it's not in an arrogant way at all and it's cool. And like where do you think that really stems from? Because I feel like people that do have the following and do have the clout, for lack of a better term, kind of, I don't know, they could come off the wrong way, and you definitely don't. So where do you think
Um,
that is?
I mean, you kind of hit it on the head. It's like keeps me grounded is that I could be there for people and I could help them maybe fix their life or avoid making making the mistakes that I did.
Right.
And it helps hold me accountable because I'm like, who am I? I don't want to be an imposter. I'm not a poser. I'm not a liar. And I have no motive of doing this financially. Like there's not me trying to just be famous and make money off brands and not, it's for me, I want to grow organically with people who want to listen to what I say. So it holds me accountable in the sense that if I don't live up to these expectations that I tell people to hold themselves to, I'm a poser, I'm
Right.
not, I'm not practicing what I preach. And honestly, I would do it with or without the following, because I've been doing this now before I was even active on social media. But for me, it's, being real in what I say and genuine. And I really am. I'm 100% genuine. I'm 100% real. And I have no agenda of why I post and do what I do, other than to reach out and, help people who might not have that guidance around them. Maybe they have no support system, they have no friends, or, in some cases, no family, and just looking for someone to ask a question on how to start, or how they like to ask someone how they did it. And they get that a lot. Like, how'd you do it? I want to do it. And I'm happy to do that. So yeah, that keeps me grounded, as well as constantly trying to improve myself. So that is another big thing. I keep myself grounded by setting goals for myself. And my motive with that is just to keep showing me what I'm capable of, because I am continuously showing it, and I'm learning more and more about myself. And I want to see until I got nothing left. I'm going to keep trying new things and pushing myself until the wheels fall off.
Yeah.
And not in the sense of get injured, just till
Right. So you can.
physically can anymore.
Right. No, absolutely, man. Yeah. I mean, like I said, you could tell it's just genuine, and it's true, and it's cool, and it's refreshing, because I feel like a lot of people on, like you said, TikTok, social media, it kind of is like fake, and it really just is about the endorsements and what they can gain from it, rather than helping.
Don't get me wrong, that's awesome. That's cool. Like, I've had opportunity, like BPN, 10,000, like all these companies but people hop from company to company just for the money. I won't do that. I have been with BPN now for 2.5 years, whatever it was, and 10,000 shortly after that. And while I could maybe go and, find another company and maybe make more money, whatever it is, I don't want to do that, because I don't do it for money. I do it because I want to attach my name to something I believe in. So that's another thing. People will know that I'm genuine in what I say, because I'm a loyal person in that aspect. I stick with companies that are real as well, transparent. And BPN is real and transparent. 10,000, real and transparent. I align with their messages, and I love their messages. And whether they're giving me $1 million or no dollars, I will stay with them, just because I appreciate what they put out there and the products and service that they provide. So that's very important to me too.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I feel like it's just rare these days.
Yeah.
Everybody kind of creates these images through social media that might not be their lives, but you could tell, like, you live this, and this is you, and it's cool. It's awesome. Oh, of course. And so outside of, obviously working out, we both have that in common. Like, what are some things that you find that you do for fun, or just a way to relax?
I very much enjoy photography. I got into it when I started to build my own brand. Obviously, I don't have a photographer, so I needed to produce content. I bought like a crappy Canon $100 camera, tried to learn on that, had no idea what I was doing, threw it out. I threw it at the floor 1,000 times, because I was like, I'm done with this. I'm not going to try. I'll just use my phone. But there was something in me that like enjoyed it. I always liked taking pictures growing up. Like when Instagram was first a thing, I would take like cool pictures. So I wanted to learn. And then I bought a less expensive camera, but better than the one I had. Learned on that, watched hours and hours of YouTube videos, testing different, going out and shooting and testing different ways, learned, and then upgraded from there. So like, it came from just taking pictures of myself or whatever I was doing. Now I help friends out. Occasionally I'll do a paid gig, but I just help friends with content, like, because I enjoy taking pictures and editing them and making cool like that's something I really enjoy doing. It's like therapeutic, sit there and edit them. So it's another thing I don't really do for profit. Occasionally I will, but I do it because I enjoy it. And other than that, I like a good going out to a nice restaurant, and I like hanging out with my family. I'm very simple now. To some, it might be boring. To me, it's all I could ask for. So
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. Sometimes simpler the better, but that's awesome. So do you do all your own like editing and take your own like videography and all that?
yeah, unless I label someone else took the
Right.
picture. I have, a friend that I work with who every now and then will do some content together, but every 90% of the content on my Instagram is all for me.
I just have two more questions for you. One is really, so I talked about this. I have my bodybuilding coach on one of my more recent episodes, and he kind of touched on it where it's so you set these goals, and I do the same thing, and you're striving for them. And sometimes it's hard to like sit in the now and where you are and like almost be proud of where you're at because you're always striving for more. Do you find that with the stuff you have going on right now?
Like, in what sense? Like, am I thinking of?
Like, are you always thinking ahead instead of because you mentioned like even your goals, you kind of focus on what you have in front of you, but are you able to like stop and smell the roses of like, hey, like look what we've done already and be like
Yeah,
confident, not in like a arrogant way, obviously, but in like a humble and like proud way.
yeah. I definitely struggle with that as
Yeah.
well. Being so like goal oriented,
Yeah.
I'm always like, I get in my head, like I'm like, all right, I need to be there. Like I can't wait to get there. You think of it so much. Like I had to start like stepping back and talking to myself and like enjoy the process, enjoy today, and enjoy tomorrow. Like I try not to look back too much. Like I'm not someone who's like, I do say like, look what you've overcome and look what you were
Right.
able to do. But I'm not like constantly like, yeah, look, I won a bodybuilding competition
Right.
and I ran this and that. I said, I take the win, I remember it, it builds me up, it helps strengthen me, and then I move forward. But now I don't like mentally go too forward because sometimes that could be negative. It's good to have that goal, of course, but it could be negative because now you're looking so far ahead that it could psych you out. So it's like I I have like I could think I want to run a sub 3 and like that could be 2 years from now, who knows, whatever. I'm not saying definitely, but it could be a year from now, it could be 2 years from now. And then that could like, you could start thinking too much into it. Like, oh my God, I got to do this for like another, and then you psych yourself out and you wind up
Right.
cool. So like the goal, like what I try to do is like, look at it in small steps. Like, all right, I want to run a sub 3, but in a couple months I have this one, we're going to get 320. And then from there, we'll move from like, you have to do it in
Break it
even
down.
smaller
Yeah.
steps than that. And I use this example in another podcast I was on. When I'm running, if I have like 16 miles that day, you could easily psych yourself out and quit at mile 1. Like it could be a cold day or a really hot day. And like you finish mile 1 and it felt like 10 miles because the weather is so brutal. The hills were brutal. And you could think like, wow, I still have 15 miles to go.
Right.
It sounds like a lot, especially
Daunting.
like just starting that run, but you have to think small. So I'd be like, all right, we're going to just run the mile we're in. I'm going to run this mile. You get to 2. Then, all right, now we're just going to get to 3, or even smaller than that. I'm going to run to that tree over there. You get to the tree. It's like, okay, now I'm going to focus on that fire hydrant. And you get to the fire hydrant, before you know it, you're just clipping along and time passes. And if that's how you do, that's how you look at long-term goals. You get to that tree, you get to that fire hydrant, before you know it, you're at your goal. If you don't love the destination, and it's overused, everybody says it. If you don't love the journey, when you get to the destination, it's going to be like, okay, like you over glorify that final goal to the point where like when you get there, it's like might not be everything you expected. You have that high for a second, and then it's like, okay, now what? But if you really loved that journey and you learned and you took the lessons from that journey, then like the destination is that much more worth it because of everything that came with getting there. If you're just constantly trying to get to that end, it's not going to be what you expected. You're going to be let down and you're never going to be fulfilled. I try to take things from each journey that I go on, learn about myself, learn about my abilities and all that. And that's a big reason as to why I stopped listening to music when I run. My first prep, I listened to music on every single run. And I realized that I was using that as like a distraction to just get to the end. I would listen to certain music or podcasts that like pumped me up. And then I realized when that motivation's not there, I don't want to do it. And I sometimes wouldn't do it. And I'm like, all right, I'm obviously not loving this journey as much as I should because I'm relying on a motivation. Motivation is a switch, it goes on and off. It turns on and off. It's not always on. You're not always going to have it. And honestly, to be honest, more than half the time, it's going to be off. So if I don't have that motivation, I still need to be able to do it. And I can't be relying on something else to get me there. So I stopped listening to music because I wanted to learn to really enjoy the process of running and not need music. And since I stopped, which was the start of Buffalo prep, I haven't listened to music since, not on one run, not on one long run, not on one speed workout. And now if I think about like trying to run with music, I can't because I enjoy it too much. And I think that's very, very important because if you look at it like that, you're using a distraction and you're using a motivation to get you through your training. And when you're using that motivation, what are you going to do when it's not there? Like, what if your headphones are dead on race day? Or for me, I ran the BPM marathon in Austin with headphones and my playlist got messed up and I listened to the same 5 songs for 4 hours and I couldn't change it because I had it strapped to my arm and my headphones were through my shirt. So if I took it off, I would have had to stop. I would have to take it out of so I just listened to the same 5 songs. Right. To the point where I took them out of my ears and now I'm in the pain cave. I'm not used to running without music and my quad is cramped up and I'm limping with no music. Like, it's just, you know what I mean? Yeah, like you gotta be prepared for these things. This is like a deep way to look at it. Like sometimes, if you want to listen to music on a run, it's fine, but I wouldn't rely on it. Learn to love the journey of whatever you're doing.
Yeah. I mean, I guess Saturday I got no headphones coming to me on Saturday. God.
Oh God,
I gotta try.
I never looked at it like that, right?
Yeah, no. So I see people do it, and I do. I'm very good with like sometimes like I'll have a playlist, but not even playlist. I'll just hit shuffle. I don't even listen to the music if that makes sense. Like I'm in my head anyway, thinking about whatever else is just on my mind really. And I think Nick Bear talks about it in his morning runs is like where he kind of like fights through problems, and I feel like it's such a good way to one, navigate through your life, and two, like not get you through the run in the sense that like you need help to get through the run, but it's like a soothing therapeutic way, like you mentioned earlier.
Yeah. I would enjoy listening to like podcasts or whatever, or even a good playlist. Like that's fine. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that at all. But like for me personally, I was like, if I didn't have my music or it would be a terrible run, or maybe I wouldn't even run. I needed to cut that out completely. I needed to learn not to rely on that. And it got to the point for me where like, now I think about it like carrying my phone and having to change songs or whatever. I like listening to nothing, it's peaceful for me now. It's like, I could think, I hear my breathing, I hear my cadence when I'm running. It helps me out personally.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I think that's actually probably something that deters people too. And I know probably deters myself, like just the breathing. And it's like, I think that would freak me out a little bit, honestly.
At first it did,
yeah, absolutely. But, and then, lastly, man, so obviously the Keep Going podcast, like what keeps you going personally?
I feel like I touched on this for sure. I guess just the constant goal of trying to reach the capabilities that I feel so many years were wasted not reaching them. So that keeps me going, is just always setting new goals for myself and working towards them every day and building that self-confidence and self-love to the point where, I feel unstoppable. And what keeps me going as well is being able to take the microdose adversity that I put myself through daily and be able to take on all challenges that I face in life, because I feel like if you're not prepared, you're going to crumble and fold, and we're going to face adversity through all of our life. And I want to be able to be prepared and able to take it on as best as I possibly can. So,
No, absolutely, man. Honestly, I really, really appreciate the time. I know, obviously took up a little bit of your day here, but I really, really appreciate the
all
time.
good.
It's honestly absolute pleasure having you on, and I really appreciate the conversation, man. It's great
Thanks
getting
for
to know you.
having me, bro. Anytime.
No, of course. And for everybody watching, please like, comment, subscribe, and share. And I'll catch you on the next episode.